conference on a Saturday morning. And I thought about it and I realized everyone here must be ambitious. You've got to be hungry to be here. And I think that's really great. So thank you for all coming out and give yourself a pat on the back. I know I'm excited to be here. I digress. I'm here this morning to moderate the conversation with Mr. Swain. Jerry Swain graduated from UCR in 1989. While he was living in the Aberdeen Inverness dorms, AI, he had his idea for his company, Jerry's Chocolates. Now he leads a coaching firm for growth-focused CEOs and does work with numerous nonprofits and volunteer organizations. So thank you for being here today, Jerry. I'll start off by giving him the opportunity to briefly introduce himself, and then we'll transition to questions where we can learn about his journey. And then, while we do have a set of predetermined questions for our speaker, we want to hear from you all as well. So if anybody has a question, just send your questions to SAA Questions. It's a person in the chat, and we can read them aloud at the end. So without further ado, let's meet our keynote speaker. Jerry, please introduce yourself and share a little bit about what you do in your field.
Yeah, certainly. First of all, I'd like to thank the SAA for inviting me back to the campus. I wish I was there, seeing everybody's eyeballs, high-fiving, hugging, whatever it is you guys do. I definitely miss the in-person. And I also just want to thank the SAA leadership for all you do on campus. It's been, the things that you've done over the decades has been great. I know it takes a lot of work and a lot of leadership to put these on. And I'm going to echo what Avi said. Everybody that's here today must be ambitious to take time out of their Saturday to be here. So I certainly appreciate that as well. I live in Solana Beach, California, which is just, I would call that southwest of Riverside. And I've been here for about 20 years. As Avi said, after UC Riverside, I had a journey that took me into being an entrepreneur and having my own company. I sold that, and currently I do really three things. One, I'm a coach for CEOs. So I coach 11 companies and 17 CEOs around the actually around the world, including Canada and Australia. And I'm involved with a group called Tiger 21. I facilitate a group of 14 CEOs or ex-CEOs that have sold their business. And I also do some volunteer work and spend a lot of time with my kids. My son's birthday is actually today. He just turned 13, so we have a good celebration for today. So I'm very happy to be here, and I look forward to our time together.
Thanks, Jerry, for that introduction. Again, if anyone has questions, just send them to SAA Questions in the Zoom chat at any time through the discussion, and we'll try to get through as many as we can. And without further ado, let's head on right to the questions. So Jerry, you originally created your chocolates here at UCR in AI. Did you ever think about chocolates as a business? And what was your process from going from creation to business idea?
Okay, that feeds me that I need to tell you the story of what happened, because it's not as simple as it sounds. So I was an assistant resident director in the A&I dorm, and I was having a potluck get together with my staff. I was on the west side of A&I, and we met in my apartment, and everybody brought something. I like sugar, I like desserts, so I said, I'm gonna bring the dessert. So I had gone home on Thanksgiving weekend, and for no particular reason, I made a big batch of chocolate peanut butter balls to bring back. Well, there's only 10 people that were coming to my apartment, but the recipe called for, I don't know, 120, 130 chocolate balls, right? So I brought them all back to campus. And anyway, I gave them to the staff in my apartment, and then I started giving them to other areas of campus. So I was involved with student government, and a variety of other things in my fraternity. And it became a hit. In fact, I wish I could see faces now when I share this, but the unadulterated version is, my friends started calling the chocolates Jer's balls. Not the pun that I wanted to have, but a small campus, that's what they called them. So after that, the next year, people said, hey, are you going to make the balls again at Christmas? And I said, why? And they're like, I don't know, it's just sort of tradition. So for the next 2 years, I made the chocolate balls and handed them out on campus. So that was fun. Graduated, left. I went to go work at IBM right after campus in Riverside. So I was close. And my friends again said, hey, why don't you get have a party or something and make the chocolate balls again. I'm like, okay, we'll do that. We'll try it. So anyway, long story short, it started as a small party with a potluck that turned in over the next 9 years to an annual event. So the second Saturday in December, we had this event that was dinner and dancing, and we'd bring out the chocolate balls after everybody had been there for a couple hours, having some fun. And it was just an amazing time. I turned the event into a fundraiser for the local food banks the last several years. So if you can imagine, I was not involved in a chocolate business, but I was having this chocolate event with friends for about 9 years. A couple years went past. I was home actually talking to my dad over Christmas time, and I was ready to go to the entrepreneurial journey. I had worked at IBM, giant company, 425,000 employees, and I worked for a middle and a small company, and I realized I've got a passion, I want to do something. So my dad and I were talking and he said, what is it that you like doing? And I started telling him. And as he was listening to me, he says, no, don't tell me what you want to do, tell me what you like doing. And I realized that was a different question. And so I said, let's see here. Well, I like being close to the customer. I like branding and marketing. I want to do something that has an impact on people. And I would love to have a business that was able to give back. And so as I was going through these things, he said, have you ever thought about the Jares balls? Yeah, he used Jares balls too. And I said, no, I never really thought about it. But what happened that night is I started sleeping on it. I started thinking about it, and I started thinking about a business differently on something that I liked doing versus what I thought I wanted to do. And so I ended up going to a chocolate conference in Boston. Yes, there are chocolate conferences, and they're lots of fun. You can go there, and people are very happy, and just it's just great industry. So I went to a chocolate conference, and I immediately fell in love with the people there. It was very different than high tech, which I loved as well, but it felt more like me. And I said, I'm jumping in. I'm going to jump into this industry and see what I can do. So in a sense, if you go back to A&I never thought of it as a business, never. And what I did is I took a journey over the next 7, 8, 9 years of having a once a year party with chocolates. Again, never thinking it's a business, but through my journey of learning what I liked doing and what I didn't like doing and where I wanted to go, it brought me back to the chocolates. And that's how I started the company.
Wow, Jerry, that is an incredible story. Not a lot of people get the opportunity to turn a passion into a business. So I can speak for all of us when you say we admire you for that. Besides chocolates, though, you have an interest in charities and nonprofits. Could you tell us a little bit about your involvement with those charities, nonprofits, and other similar organizations?
Yeah. The fabric of our company was around giving back. So if I go personally, I remember being in high school and some people coming to the class and volunteering their time and talking about a variety of things. And that was really impactful for me because it was different than the teacher being up there and learning from the teacher. It was somebody from the outside world, and it really made an effect on me. And so I started volunteering my time at places like Junior Achievement and working with schools. That turned into working with boards, for example, UCR Alumni Association, American Cancer Society, San Diego Food Bank. I just really enjoyed giving back. And part of the fabric of the company was, what can we do to create a product that made people feel good, that made them happy, that was a nice experience, but also that we could give back. So we had an initiative called Jares Cares, and we spent a lot of our energy. We actually had chocolate parties throughout the year. We had given literally hundreds of thousands of dollars during the lifetime of our company to charities through the parties, through nonprofits and such. And so, we did it because it was who we were, and we didn't do it for any other reason. I know a lot of companies have cause marketing, which I think is wonderful, but we had a lot of different organizations. So as time went on, we had to figure out, how do we put them in buckets, right? What is our focus and where do we give to? So anyway, it was a wonderful experience. I still volunteer my time today, and I just admire people that are involved with nonprofit organizations and the energy that they give.
Well, speaking about Jerry's Chocolates, we all know how that part of the story ends. You did sell the company. What was the decision-making process behind that like? Did you know what you wanted to do after you sold the company? And what did you learn from the process that you could tell the audience about?
Yeah, that was an interesting process. And, if I had to do it all over again, it would have been a little bit different. I regret nothing, right? Because I went into it somewhat ignorant, and I went into it with a lot of I didn't know what I didn't know. But when I first started the company, in the back of my head is like, what do I want to do with this? Is this the company I'm going to create and work the rest of my life? At the time I created the company, I didn't have children, but I did think, like, if I have children, is this something that they would do? And thinking about that, that's a long time down the road. Or is it something that I create value that I have an opportunity to potentially sell it? So I would say the first several years, I did not have the answer. I was trying to survive. The first 3 to 4 years of the company was really, really challenging. Many times, a more sane person would have thrown in the towel and said, I'm done. I'm giving up. But I kept driving, and I kept focusing on wanting to find this passion, wanting to fulfill the passion. And once I got to a point where I turned the corner, we started becoming profitable, we started growing, we started creating a really great customer list. Then I stepped back at that moment. I said, what is it that I want to do with this business? And I knew I wanted to build it at that time to sell. When was that? I had a time frame on it. Time frame didn't work out exactly how you plan, but the process was great. We got to a point where we started selling to all the Whole Foods in the United States, Costco's, Targets, all the specialty foods. We had a store in the airport at the San Diego airport. We're shipping internationally to 4 different countries. We're doing a lot of time on QVC. I don't know if you guys watch QVC. I don't, but I was on QVC quite a bit selling chocolate. But it was a really, we basically grew this brand that had value. And then once we had value, we had companies that started approaching us asking if we wanted to sell or collaborate or somehow partner up. So yeah, the process was great. We ended up having several bids on our company, and we ended up taking one of the offers from a company out in Florida, public company. I stayed on for 2 years after that. Basically, they rolled up 5 companies, Jerry's Chocolates and 5 other companies. And it was great. I had an experience of being able to run and oversee several of those companies, several of those plants in the US, which was a great experience as well. So I would say this, if I had to do it all over again, I would probably have more of a plan on the front end to say, this is the journey I want to take. But once I jumped into it, I didn't know what I didn't know, and the survival piece became more predominant for me than what I was going to be doing a year or 10 years down the road.
Hey, no regrets, right? You were in the woods, you made it through, you struggled, you turned a profit, you came out on top, and now you're doing something completely different. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that. You currently lead a coaching firm for growth-focused CEOs and entrepreneurs. What's that like? What's it like working with Tiger 21? And yeah, just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. When I sold the business, one of the things that was something I didn't expect, and I have friends that have sold businesses, but what was interesting was I didn't know what it was going to do to me, where I was going to be. I took some time off, spent it with my children, a lot of time with my kids, with some friends, and just basically detoxing from being an entrepreneur for so long and just working hard and grinding. I started just getting itchy and uncomfortable. It's like, I got to be doing something. I got to be following some type of passion. That process, I will tell you, was an unbelievable process. And there's a lot of reflection and books about this. They talked about when, John Lennon created the Beatles, and then, then the Beatles broke up. It's like, what was his life? He was so identified in being a Beatle. I was identified in my small little world of having Jerry's Chocolates, right? And that was my identity. And so changing that and figuring out what the next chapter of my life was a very interesting process for me. So I started, in a sense, chasing a lot of shiny balls. Do I want to invest in a company? Do I want to buy a company? Do I want to create a new company? Do I want to, take offers of a CEO and run companies? There was all these different options that were out there. and I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I just know that my whole life had been, like the last 12 years of my life has been chocolate and sugar and candy. And that was my world. And I knew that world really, really well. So the attraction was to stay in that industry, and because that's what I knew. And there was a lot of pressure from friends. There was a lot of things that came up on that. But what I think my journey is I started going through the process of interviewing for CEO positions, looking at companies to buy, all these things. And I figured out what would that mean? And it wasn't the life that I wanted to leave at this point in my life, right? Maybe if it was 10 years early, possible. So what happened is Tiger 21 approached me. That organization was looking for members. They were looking for people to help facilitate. I looked at that as, hey, it's a part-time thing. I'm learning, and and it's challenging, right? So those are the things that I was looking for. Then the coaching business came up. The founding partner of CEO Coaching International, I ran into each other at a conference, and he said, hey, how's your chocolate company doing? I said, I sold it. He says, we're looking for coaches who have sold their companies. Would you like to do that? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I had a coach in my business, which I was forever grateful for. In fact, he passed away less than 2 weeks ago, but he was unbelievable, and he helped me through my business. And I found through this process of coaching that I loved it so much because I only coach founders and emerging companies, right? I'm not going to. We have coaches that coach the billion-dollar companies or the franchises that have 300 franchises. I focus on people that have bootstrapped a company, that have grown a company, or are growing a company. And I'm so passionate about that. And again, finding a second passion in my life has been such a gift, because I love helping these companies for a couple of things. One, again, I've been there, done that. But two, I don't know all the answers, and I love learning through the process. So when I engage with a CEO and I learn from that engagement, I can take that to the next one. And it's challenging. Every CEO is different. Everybody has a different personality and behavioral style. And I just love that. I get up every day and I just can't wait to help these companies. And I love not having to have their payroll and their staff.
Wow. Well, from chocolates and charity to helping CEOs sell their business or decide on that, it sounds like there's really a strong theme of helping others in your business career. And in fact, you were handpicked really to lead a revitalization effort for the San Diego Food Bank while it was on the brink of bankruptcy. Can you tell us about how you turned that organization around and how you got it to be as successful as it is today?
Yeah. First of all, I'm very passionate about hunger. I grew up in a family where we were a food stamp family when I was young. And so I understand and relate to the aspects of hunger. So that's always been, even before I started Jer's Chocolates, that party I was talking to you about, the Jer's Ball, they called it a party, was all about the food bank. And when they asked me to help, it was a handpicked team of probably 6-7 people. The food bank is a nonprofit, but it's a business, right? And the business is failing miserably. And we started with people first. Do we have the right people in this business to make this successful? And we went through the process of understanding what type of people do we need in this business. And we started replacing a lot of them. We kept very few and we replaced it. Then what were the processes involved? You know, the big steps I take with my clients are people and process. Those two things are extremely important, sometimes more important than the service or the product that they're selling. So we wanted to create a team that was going to be the cohesive team that we needed to take this food bank out from the brink of bankruptcy to a real service in the community. And, you know, I attribute it to the individual that kind of assembled this team, right? Because we were people that were passionate about hunger. We were passionate about this business being successful. And over the course of 2.5 years, it was a lot of work, but we brought this, the food bank, to a point where it's a major organization here in San Diego. They're doing some great things, especially during COVID right now. And they're making an impact on a lot of people's lives.
Wow. So just looking at everything you've done, going through that whole journey, it's easy to forget that you were actually a student here at UCR too. So could you tell us about your 14 years on the board for the UCR Alumni Association? What do you feel are the benefits of being part of this organization? And why is alumni work so important to you?
Sure. I had a wonderful experience at UC Riverside. And like everybody that's on this panel today and participating today, the more you participate in the university, the more you get out of it. And I'm a big believer in that. I had the opportunity to do that. So not only working in the dorms, I was involved with student government. I put a lot of effort in being the founder of ASPB, for example, and a lot of efforts on campus that I loved. And UCR gave me those opportunities, not only to get a great education, but to be able to look outside the classroom and do different things that I learned so much from and made so many great contacts and friends. And so when they asked me to serve on the board after I graduated, I gladly accepted. It was an honor for me to serve. And the benefits are like the food bank story, right? You get a great team of people on a board that want to move a mission forward, make positive change, have impact on alumni, have impact on the university and students. It can be super rewarding. So I think that all came, it's what you want inside, but the benefit was I felt like we were doing good things and I was able to walk away from that feeling that goodness.
Well, on top of all of that, you also work as a speaker, a volunteer speaker. So could you speak a little bit about your experience as a speaker at K through 12 schools over 25 years you're still involved with today, and what advice do you have for members of the audience that might aspire to become a speaker and use public speaking in their career?
Oh, that's very interesting. I don't think I ever desired to be a speaker. I just think it happened through my volunteer work. So what was happening is I was asked to come speak, for example, on junior achievement. When I was volunteering at schools, American Cancer Society, we had a speakers bureau. So I was speaking to corporations, a lot of them. When I got into the chocolate business, a lot of people were very interested, like, how did you come from high tech to chocolate? That doesn't make a lot of sense. And my first response to that was, what do you mean? There was no future in high tech. Sugar is where the future is, right? So, a lot of people were fascinated with that story. So I started using that platform to be able to talk to entrepreneurs, to different business organizations, to different nonprofit organizations, and it was a lot of fun. I speak a lot on DNA, not the scientific DNA, but I call it decisions and attitudes, which is another topic. But that has been a passion of mine. It's not a career. It's not something I'm looking at proactively doing, but I love coming to events like this. I love going to corporations if I'm asked to go and to be able to give a speech. If you're going to take, to your second question is, what would I share if you wanted to go that route? You have to, like with any business, you have to do the research, right? It's just so important for an entrepreneur, or if you're getting into anything, is to understand, besides doing the reading and the research, talk to people who have done it. Talk to the people who are doing it. So I could read all the books in the world about being a parent, but until I talk to real parents, I'm getting the most information there. And even when you're starting a business of any sort, I really, really encourage to find people in the like business, the like industries, people that have done that, and find out what's the mistakes that they made, what did they learn, what went well, what do they recommend? And just like with speaking, I would find speakers if you want to do that, because that whole world has really changed. Look what COVID has done to that industry. That used to be a travel industry. You get up, you pack your bags, you go, you give your keynote, or you're at a conference, they pay you and you leave, right? Now you've got these Zoom sessions. And by the way, more than 50% of the conferences have been canceled, right, this last year. So that decimated that industry a little bit. So those are the types of things when you look at planning that are really important to consider.
Well, Jerry, between all of the work that you've done, you're still a guy. You've got a family, you've got kids, you make chocolates. What advice would you have about work-life balance? How do you maintain that?
That's the ongoing question for all of us, right? Work balance, right? the interesting thing about work-life balance is I go back to when I was at IBM. Stephen Covey came out with a book. You probably heard of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. There was another book called First Things First by Roger Merrill that was with Stephen Covey. And they taught a system that I live today. And that is, to get the best balance out of your life, you need to know what your life is. And it is the roles in your life. So for example, what are my roles? I'm a father, I'm a co-parent, I'm a business owner, I'm a community servant, I'm a friend, and there's probably personal development in there as well. So once you define your roles and where you want to put energy in your life, to me, that's the first step. So I know what my roles are in my life, and roles can change over time, right? Pre-marriage, pre-having kids, those roles aren't in your life. So your roles change. And then once I understand the role, how much energy am I putting into that role? What are the goals for that role? If I want to be a great friend, what does that look like? And how much time am I putting into that? If I want to be a great dad, what does that look like? And what kind of energy and effort am I putting into it? And does my life at this point, is it consumed by one of my roles? And a lot of people, we all know people like that work consumes their life, and work becomes 80 or 90% of where they put their energy. And that's just one role in their life. So I try to go through the process of understanding what are my roles and how do I balance out the energy in those roles. And if I've got to write things down, I have it written down and I review it. Every Sunday or every other Sunday, I look at it and I say, am I fulfilling the role or am I missing on this role? And that's the best balance for me. I'm also a big believer in exercise. When I say exercise, not just physical, mental, spiritual, however you want to exercise your life, your body, your soul. I think those are really key things for me personally that keep me grounded and that keep me aware of where I should balance.
Thank you for that. I'm sure a lot of us are wondering, just coming out of college and right into the workforce, what advice would you have for anybody that wants to be an entrepreneur?
So I'm going to go back to saying research, right? I am a big believer in finding people that have already done that. And if I didn't have my coach, I don't know if, one, the business would have even survived, and two, if we would have had the success we had in growing the company or selling the company. And it's because he had been there and done that. And I put together an advisory board with people that had been there and done that, and I leaned on them, right? And so if you're looking at becoming an entrepreneur or anything for that matter, find people that have done it and try to understand, ask the right questions, think about the journey that you're going to go on, because we all have the same amount of time. If you jump into something and you're a year or two down the road, that's difficult. The other thing I would say is, I know a lot of services and products that have been phenomenal, and those businesses have failed. And I know a lot of lousy products that are still around. And there's some, why is that, right? So I just read recently that out of 1,000 companies in the United States, after 5 years, only 4 of them are either alive or have reached $1 million in sales. So 4 out of 1,000. So that tells you 996 businesses didn't make it for some reason. And so when you think about being an entrepreneur, that journey is not easy. Figure out what your why is. Why do you want to become an entrepreneur, or anything for that matter? What's the passion behind it? That's really, really important. So when I speak to my clients, or I speak to anybody that I meet, and they say, oh, I want to do this or this, my first question is why? Why do you want to do it? And to think about that. Is it a passion? Is it for monetary reasons? Is it for other things? Everybody's got their own reasons, but to identify that is for me is super key. And then just know that an entrepreneurial journey is not easy. It can be lonely, and it can be a lot of fun. It can be super rewarding, and I'm very grateful for that. And I remember one of my mentors said to me, you have to be prepared to make lots of mistakes and live with those mistakes. But if you can be right 60% of the time, you're going to beat everybody else. And I thought about that. I'm like, really, 60%? I mean, 40% wrong? And it's pretty right. You're going to make a lot of mistakes, and you have to be able to live with those and be prepared for those. So having cash, having the right people, having the right processes in place. Remember, a real great business, a real great organization is built on people and the teams around it. So again, I'm a big believer in creating a great team.
Wow. So from having a mentor, surrounding yourself with the right people, having a passion, having a direction, it's a lot of really great advice. It looks like we have about 10 minutes left. So we're going to open the floor to the audience questions. And it looks like we've got one right now. We have a question that says, in your experience of coaching others, what do you think are the most important factors, both internal and external, that contribute to success?
Do you mind repeating that? I just broke up there just for a little bit.
Sure. In your experience of coaching others, what do you think are the most important factors, both internal and external, that contribute to success?
That's a great question. Great question. I don't know if I got a great answer, but I'll tell you just my experience from it. Success to me is defined from within, right? So success is one of those big words out there. That person's successful, that business is successful. It's like, well, what is success, right? And I think when we dig into that, everybody's got a little bit different definition. It could mean financial freedom or accumulation, accomplishments. It could be richness and relationships. So the list goes on and on. For me personally, I define success as peace of mind. And how do I get peace of mind? How do I sleep well at night? And there's a lot of attributes that contribute to that, not for this time. But as I coach people and I look at the attributes where people feel that they're at a peace of mind, that their business is doing well, that they're doing well financially, that they're doing well in their relationships well. Things that come to mind are, self-awareness, knowing that you have blind spots and that you can always grow and improve. And people like that are very easy to coach because they want to get better. Take a look at the best athletes in the world. They have coaches, right? They're the best in the world. Why do they need a coach, right? They're in the top 1/1000th of 1%, but they want to get better. They want to grow. They want to improve. I also admire people that are just in general hardworking. They've got great work ethic, passion. I think that the energy you feel from somebody, and it doesn't have to be wow like this, but it just the positive energy you feel from somebody. My coach Marvin wasn't extroverted, but when you spoke to him, you just felt the passion and the energy that he had for life and for things. I also think it's real important when I work with people that they're not afraid to fail and not afraid to take chances and learn from them. And I always suggest that when you go through any experience, positive or negative, you should ask yourself 3 questions. What went right? What went wrong? And what did I learn from that situation? And if you can pause and do that and reflect on it, I think it's a wonderful way to run your life, run your business. And I love people that have great attitude and great character. And I'll never forget the Chancellor of UC Riverside, Rosemary Schreier, said, I heard her say in a speech, I was on a panel with her, great lady. She said she admired people that liked themselves. And I'll never forget that. Because it came across like, what does that mean? And it didn't mean in an arrogant way. It didn't mean in a boastful way. It's not about outward, it's inward. People that like themselves, they like the character, they like who they are. They feel like they've made good decisions, mistakes, but good decisions. But deep down, you can tell those people. And so that's my short list.
Let's see what else we've got here. We've got a question. What can I do right now as a student to better ensure a job after graduation?
Well, ensure a job, that's a tough one. It's an interesting time right now. But I would say lots of things. What you're doing today by attending this type of event, seek outside counsel. Are there events? Is there research? Are there people that you can connect with? Most jobs are from people that you know or they have introduced you to somebody that you know. I think the first job I ever had was at IBM. my official job out of college, I went through a normal interview process there. But since then, I never had one other career job where there wasn't another person involved that I knew. So networking is really important, doing the energy to research and get to create those trusting relationships, right? Not just to connect, hi, can you help me, but really create a trusting relationship, understanding other people's desires, wants, needs, and yours as well. And then also know that when you're coming out of college, you don't need to pick your lifetime career right out the door. Experiment, try things. If you have the opportunity, it doesn't sound like it might what you might want to do, it's okay. You learn a lot from what you don't like, just as much as you learn as what you do like. When I went to IBM, they said, okay, we're going to put you in sales and sales management. I'm like, sales? It was like the last thing on my mind, right, that I was thinking about doing. But I'm like, seems like a great company. I jumped in there and I became very passionate about it. And I was lucky. But I also learned when I was there was things in finance and engineering and other things that I didn't like, and it helped me shorten that list. So I would do as much as you can to have the outreach, especially now with COVID, where we're not having as much as this, and participate in anything you can that involves other people.
Thank you. Let's see. Oh, we do have one comment that's not a question. A student wants to let Jerry know that this was very insightful and they appreciate your answers very much. So yes, thank you on behalf of everyone. Thank you, Jerry. This is awesome. Let's see, other questions. Ooh, can you talk about a challenge that you faced in your work?
Absolutely. There were tons of them, and it's hard for me to pick one, but I'll share one story. 2011, our company was growing and growing fast. We were in the cover full page in the Costco Connection magazine. We were on the front cover of the American Airlines magazine. We were on TV. I had written a book, and I was doing book signings. I mean, we were just getting wonderful, wonderful publicity everywhere, and we were really ramping up to the next year. We had just landed a bunch of Costco regions, which is big, big business. We got a call end of September that next year, and it was from one of our co-manufacturers, and they said, have you heard the news? And I said, no. They go online and look this up. And what had happened, there was a recall on peanut butter for the largest manufacturer in the United States. They provided all the peanut butter for Costco, for Trader Joe's, for all the Kroger stores, which is like Ralph's and those types of things. Giant one. We got our premium peanut butter for them for our peanut butter recipes. So there was a salmonella outbreak at the plant. We went back, we went to the plant, we had the FDA and the health department come out. Luckily, none of our peanut butter was from the contaminated area. We have lot numbers, so we know exactly where it comes from. That was part of the food safety we had. And we're like, oh, thank goodness there's no issues with our peanut butter. The following day, the FDA called and they said from the government, national government, and they said, you're going to have to pull your product. We said, why? We said, why? We can have all the proof. The local FDA came in, we can show the tracing of everything, and we tested, it was swabbed and tested everything. There's nothing wrong with our product. You know what? In the abundance of caution, we're having everybody pull. And so we had just shipped out truckloads and truckloads and truckloads of product for Christmas, which is by far the biggest time for us. We did over almost 70% of our business for the entire year in the last 6 weeks of the year. And so we had to pull all the product out of 3 countries, out of 39 states, in thousands of stores, and we had to eat all the packaging. No, not literally, but we lost all the money on the ingredients, all the money on the shipping, all the money on the packaging. We had to destroy the product, and it drained all of our cash out of the business. And so over the course of the next 2 years, the struggles and the teamwork that we had to put together to pull ourselves out of that was amazing. And we did it, and we did it wonderfully. but it became, as you may have heard, a wartime in the business. I became a wartime CEO, and it's like fix problems, do them quickly, and do them without draining your cash. So we ended up losing a lot of the Christmas, but we pivoted, came out with new products, kept some stuff, but there's a longer story there. But that's a great example of life's not fair, right? Things are going to happen that aren't fair. Things are going to be out of your control, i.e. COVID, none of our control here, right? And it's going to derail you. How are you going to respond during those timeframes? And are you prepared for those timeframes? So a lot of lessons learned from that.
Hey, I mean, you fall on your ass, you get right back up and you keep on going. That's what makes a good entrepreneur, right?
Oh, yeah. It was out of necessity, but yes, did our best.
Oh yeah. So it's looking like we're coming up on our time. I think we've got time for just one more quick question. I'm going to ask you to reach back a little bit here, but if you could do it all again, if you go back to your undergraduate years, what changes would you make?
That's a great question. And I want to answer it this way. With the knowledge I have now, I can look back and say, I might do things differently or approach things differently. So, for example, if I look back at my undergraduate career, maybe I would have spent time doing this more or this less. But at the end of the day, I'm pretty happy with the decisions that I made in my life, even if they weren't the perfect ones, because I know that I learned from the mistakes along the way. So if I go back and did it all over again and try to avoid the mistakes, I'd probably make different ones. But I have no regrets, and I have probably no changes that I would do that are significant, because I think taking the challenging times and being able to be resilient and aware of them and grow from them is a big part of life and a big part of just all of our personal and professional growth. So I'll just leave it at that.
All right. Well, that is all the time we have for this session. On behalf of the UCR Alumni Association and the Student Alumni Association, thank you, Jerry, so much for being with us today. Everybody give him a virtual round of applause. Your advice and kind words have been really beneficial for everyone here, I'm sure. And I will now pass it over to Minerva from the Student Alumni Association to continue the program. So Jerry, once again, thank you.
Thank you, Avi.